You're listening to By Design with Idia Sapphire and Santos Alberto. In today's episode, we are talking about an awesome subject, which is manifestation by design. How do you manifest based upon human design? So Santos and I are going to break down for you the fastest, simplest way to manifest, and also the two secrets, the two things that you need to know in order to guarantee the success of any manifestation and to increase your capacity to simply and quickly and seamlessly manifest all that is correct for you.
Ooh, I want to know that.
Now, this is actually inspired by a question from a 2-4 emotional projector who asks, I have a question about being a specific or non-specific manifestor. Someone mentioned this to me in regards of doing business, and I understand it has not to do with being a manifestor, but with how to manifest. Is that correct? And if I understand correctly, I would be a non-specific manifestor, the bottom arrow in my chart pointing to the right. Could you give me some of your wisdom on this? Thanks. So yeah, we're going to dive into this.
Yeah. Okay, well, the first thing to really address here is to start defining some of these concepts, some of these parts of the question, right? Mainly manifestation. What is manifestation? And specifically, how does it work based on the human design perspective, right? And the number one place to look at here is actually going to be in the Definitive Guide of Human Design by Ra Uru Hu, the founder of Human Design. You can see this on page 45, which talks about the one manifestation center, only one center.
One to rule them all.
Just one. All right. So in human design, the center of manifestation is the throat center, and there really is nothing to do with the variables or the arrows in your chart that's not at all related to these centers.
And we'll show you more about that
we'll
later,
show you
what those arrows actually mean.
Yeah, we'll show you what those arrows actually mean here later on, but just pointing out that from the human design perspective, the one manifestation center is the throat. Right, that's this piece here in the throat, and basically in the book it says all energy is being moved through the throat, right, where it is given a voice as a means to physically manifest.
Well, really what the book is saying about the other 8 centers move toward the throat. When you look at a body graphic, if you see that small image in the corner, or even here, you can see that in the center of everything is the throat center. And so the ajna and the head and the G center and the heart center and the solar plexus and the sacral center and the root and the spleen are all kind of moving upwards into that direction where all roads lead to the throat center. And so the throat is really the core of manifestation. In order to manifest, it must come through the throat center. This is what makes someone a manifestor. It's that they have a defined throat connected to a motor. So even if you look at this chart that we're looking at right now, this is a just now transit.
Well, hold on. Before you go into that, I just want to remind our listener of one very important thing when it comes to looking at these charts, because there's a lot of information here. One of my favorite ways of visualizing what we're looking at here is simply by imagining that each of these centers are like rooms. And when the color is turned on, when the color is there, it's called definition. That's like the room having the lights on. And so whenever Idia talks about there being a connection between centers, imagine the flow of electricity turning on the lights in different rooms, because that's what these channels are. They're connections. There's a flow of electromagnetic energy that's flowing between these centers through these gates, through these channels. Mm-hmm. And so when Idia talks about a motor, right, or we talk about a motor, we're literally talking about something that generates electricity, something that generates energy, and then carries that fuel, carries that source of power through the gate, through the channel, and into a different center, a different room, if you will. So the lights turn on there. Now, we have been focusing on the throat center, right? Because that is the center of manifestation, as you have seen from the source material that we showed you from the Definitive Guide of Human Design. And then the next component that it is talking about in terms of what makes manifestation work is there must be a source of power. We've got to plug in the throat center, if you will, so that the manifestation can actually have energy behind it and it can become physically manifest. And so when it is talking about these neck centers, the motors, right, they are actually producing this energy that makes the manifestation actually work, that makes it real, that makes it physical. And so, Idia, do you want to talk more about the motors now?
Yeah, great explanation, great breakdown. So when you look at a human design chart, there are only 4 motors in human design, and they carry energy. This is what makes someone an energy being, right? When you have these defined, as Santos was reminding you, that when they're colored in, that's definition, meaning that this is consistent within you, versus where it's white, all the white centers, all the white lines, known as gates, all the white channels, combined gates where 2 gates connect with each other, those are the places where you're known as open or undefined. And that means that energy, circuitry, connections don't consistently flow through there. The only way that those become active is when there's a transit, when there's astrological weather, or when you come into contact with someone else who imprints your aura with that energy. So when we talk about a motor in human design, there are only 4 motors. The sacral center, where Santos' arrow is right now, the root center, which is all about adrenaline, fuel, pressure, the solar plexus, the emotional center, and the heart center. Those are the only 4 motors. And so as you can see, in order to make something become birthed onto the material plane, then there must be a connection to the throat where it can be hooked up to that battery, in essence, and give it fuel, give it energy, give it power to be able to create that manifestation and birth that into physical form. And so that's what makes someone a manifestor or a manifesting generator. When you look at any chart, it's because there is a connection from a motor, either the heart, the solar plexus, the root, or the sacral, to the throat. And so when we look at this chart right now, you can see, even though it's a just now transit, meaning anyone who's born right now would have this design, this is the design of an ego manifestor, where the ego connects to the G center through 2551, the channel of initiation, and through the channel of the creative alpha, the 8-1, up into the throat. So that double connection is what is connecting that heart center, that motor from the heart to the throat. And that's what gives this design the capacity to be able to manifest.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If you are a manifesting generator or a manifestor, or you know a manifesting generator or a manifestor, look at their charts and look for the connection to the throat. That's going to be the key here from a motor, right? So one of these 4 motors will have a connection, whether direct, say for example the 4521 channel here, if this was directly connected, or the 1222, right, it'll be a direct connection from a motor directly to the throat, giving the power to that manifestation center, the throat, so that we can have physical manifestations. And the way that it happens can be direct, right? Or it can be a 2-step process, kind of like here, 25 to 51 and then 8 to 1. So it can be multi-stepped as long as there is ultimately a connection between the motor and the throat.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So that really is how manifestation as a process works, right?
That's like the technical how, the physical explanation of how does manifestation happen in the body? What are the mechanics of how manifestation operates?
Exactly. Now, I do want to bring up a kind of an aside right now, or really a key point to this question was around, variable and the arrows in a chart. And there seems to be this, group of human design nerds out there, people who study human design or use or talk about human design or read human design. They're talking about how the bottom right arrow, the variable in your chart, can basically decide whether you're a specific or a non-specific manifestor, right? And so I want to talk about this here for a sec, because really this is just an inaccurate portrayal of how manifestation works according to human design. What we've shown you...
It's a total bastardization, and it's completely incorrect.
It is incorrect.
Do you want to pull up the definition that we looked up?
I do want to pull that up. I just want to bring this one more time here. As you can see, this is really this core source material that we've been able to find that speaks about manifestation and that really talks about how manifestation works. And it all comes down to the throat center, nothing to do with variable. Variable is a totally different thing. And it does show some things that are very important and relevant to your design and how you operate, but it does not affect the manifestation process itself directly. So let's go into the definition of what this non-specific and specific manifestation is about. This is our friendly Brave AI, and we've asked it, what's specific versus non-specific.
To summarize it from all of the different, people who are pushing this idea.
So this AI is going to go through the internet, find all the sources, and then give us kind of a summary, right? So specific manifestors focus on precise, detailed, and tangible outcomes, right? Often using a clear and direct approach to achieve their goals. They tend to be more goal-oriented and focus on the end result, versus non-specific manifestors are supposedly more general and flexible in their approach, meaning they don't have to focus specifically on all the details. They can just focus on the underlying feelings, the emotions, and the qualities that they desire to experience in their lives. And I mean, that's what's being kind of shared out there around manifestation.
Homogenized, a groupthink bastardization of what it means to manifest according to human design.
Yeah, you could say that. When it comes to the part, like the
where
part
it's
of
coming from.
Yeah, where in human design,
where did they get this idea from?
Where did they get this idea from? They got it from variable. All right, and let me show you.
No.
Is it the second one here? No, that's the third one. We'll start here. This diagram kind of breaks it all down. You can see this is.
First let's give some context about what variable even is. This is coming from, Ra did a 3-day program on this back in June of 2009. And so this is where this information about variable is coming from. Part of the reason why we show you source material is because this is the nature of what happens, right? When more and more people get access to a certain amount of information, it becomes almost like a game of telephone, where different people put their own spin and their own interpretation. And I say this, when I call it a bastardization, it's not to attack the people who are sharing it in this way, but rather that it's the game of telephone, where well-meaning individuals think that they've understood something in a certain way, and over time, the further and further and further you get from source material, the more that the message becomes distorted or skewed. Yeah. And part of the reason why we show you this source material and why we show you charts and why we show you what this means and try to explain it to you is so that you can stand within your own power and have your own evidence and your own proof to be able to make decisions that are correct for you. Because at the end of the day, human design really is about living out your truth and not listening to some external authority about what is correct for you or what manifestation means or how to manifest, or you got to hop on one head and rub your belly and do these things and then things will happen. Yeah. It really is about, okay, based upon this really potent logical system that was channeled through, that Ra received in a very mythical transformational experience, how does it explain the truth of our experience, the truth of how we're designed, and what does it say about manifestation, and how is that expressed? And these concepts and these ideas that people are pulling from different places, where are they even getting this from? And where is this misunderstanding or misinterpretation of the material coming from? That way you can have your own awareness and come to your own conclusions about what is correct, what is actually true, that you're actually following and understanding and listening to and learning from what is truly human design versus what is random person named Susie Q's interpretation of what they think that human design is.
Yeah. I think of it as just doing our best to maintain the integrity of the information. And this is our highest intention. If anybody else sees or hears something that we're talking about, and they can point us to source material that might be contrary to what we're saying, or might better illuminate what we're aiming to do with what we're saying, or with our interpretations are, like, I welcome that.
Yeah,
we absolutely
please share
welcome
with us.
that.
And we're not at all saying that we're here, the resident experts of all things human design, and that we'll always get it perfectly accurate 100% of the time, but no means.
Yeah, it's just about, like, let's look at what was actually said, and that way we can shape accurate experiments and test it out for ourselves, because ultimately it is our personal experiment that helps to reveal our personal truth.
Yeah.
And that's really it. The rest is just us looking at what was said, what did Ra actually say, what is supposedly truly human design, is that logical based on the system, and us trying to understand the system.
And like Santo said, our highest intention and the reason that we share this work with you, and the reason that we do it in this way, is to honor the frequency of this information and this language, and to honor the integrity of this system. That way it can best support you in actually having the awakening and the transformation that you're here to have by following your own inner compass.
So we can run experiments.
Well, we all run our own unique experiment.
Of course. I just mean that the
Scientists.
information that you have is going to determine the kind of hypothesis that you can formulate.
Well, that's true. So if you get the wrong information,
so if you've got the wrong info, you can go off on a wild goose chase.
Blow up in your face.
You could.
It becomes dangerous in the lab.
Yeah, that can. There's data that comes from that too, but I'd rather kind of avoid those if I can.
Yeah.
So what is variable, right? Let's talk about what these arrows in your chart actually mean. You might see them in Maya mechanics. It isn't a very common
you have to change the view.
But some
advanced imaging.
Some charts will show these arrows near the head up here, like kind of like this. Yeah. And they'll be either pointing to the right, like this one is, or there'll be some to the left and some to the right, or all to the left. They all point either right or left, yeah? And that's where you can see it in your chart. Well, what actually is variable?
Now remember that human design has so many layers. And the first layer really is about your type, which determines your strategy. And the second layer is authority, which comes from your centers and their definition. Now, what Santos is scrolling to here, you'll see that all the different combinations, possible combinations for variable. So as you go deeper and deeper to different layers, you get beyond type and strategy, you get to the centers, and you see authority, and you see the not self themes, and you get to the gates and the channels, and you get to profile, and then you get to the lines and the chops, and then underneath those you get to color, and you get to base, and you get to tone. These are all deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper layers and subtleties of what it is to live your design. And so variable is one of these deeper layers of human design and interpreting and understanding your human design chart.
Yeah, and specifically when it comes to what human design is centered in, they talk about, you might have heard it, and you will see it mentioned here, what's called the form principle. So when you learn your type, when you learn human design, and you're learning about type, manifesting generator, projector, all of that is about creating transformation in what's called the form principle, which is essentially the physical, like the body, for example, right? You're creating transformation in your body. You might notice people who are, years into their experiment, they start losing weight. Their body literally physically starts to change. Maybe they look lighter. They just look different. The physicality of the human, of their body actually changes because the transformation, the first transformation in human design is in the form principle by learning type, right? By learning what it means to be a projector, by learning what it means to be generator, manifesting generator, reflector, manifestor, etc. And what variable is about is creating a transformation in awareness, a transformation in your cognition and your ability to see in more of the mental plane, if you will, not so much the physical plane. And so this is variable is the equivalent of type in this realm of awareness, in this realm that is kind of beyond the form principle. right? And at the same time, when Ra introduces this variable, he talks about how human design is rooted in something that is very basic and very simple. And that is, it is rooted in decision making, right? So this is one of the things that when I first encountered human design, I really wondered, because I had already encountered other spiritual tools like meditation, for example, where the practice is very clear, right? The practice of meditation, you do not know meditation if you do not sit to meditate, right? Like the practice of meditation, the reason for having knowledge around meditation is to sit down and actually meditate, right? It would be like if you learned, like Idia, you're a dancer, if you learned all these different dance moves but never practiced actually dancing, right? There's a clear distinction between the knowledge and the practice. And with human design, when I first encountered it, I wasn't quite sure what the practice was versus what the learning was. Like, what's the knowledge, the learning, and the study, and what's the practice? What's the actual thing that I'm supposed to be doing to be living human design instead of just learning about it? What's the thing that I must be doing to actually live meditation, not just know meditation or study meditation? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that all spiritual systems come with sadhana, some kind of spiritual practice.
Exactly.
And that if it's just intellectual wisdom or intellect or mind, like entertaining the mind,
Yeah.
and you know it intellectually,
Or just study.
But you don't know it through the body, embodied wisdom, true gnosis,
Right.
then it really isn't a transformational system. It
Exactly.
really isn't spiritual technology.
Exactly.
And so then what is the sadhana, the spiritual practice of human design?
Exactly. Well, if you haven't guessed it by now, that is decision making. The actual practice of living your design
Comes
is
down to how do you make decisions correctly as yourself?
correct decision making. I make a decision. Every decision that we make. Do I eat right now? Do I work right now? Do I cook right now?
What do I eat?
do I answer
When
this
do I
person
cook?
who's
How do
calling
I
me?
eat? How
Do
do
I
I
stay
cook?
on the line? Do I take this client call? Do I work with this person?
Do I launch this offer?
Do I launch this offer? Do I buy this program? Right? Like any decision that you are making.
Do I marry this person?
Do I marry this person?
Do I move to the city?
Yeah. Do I
All
move
the
to the city? Do I eat this? Do I eat that? Do I drink? Am I thirsty? What do I like? Do I
sit to meditate?
do I sit to meditate? Right? Like, what is it that you are deciding on a daily basis? And do those decisions lead to the true self theme in your design? Does that lead to satisfaction or success? Or do you experience peace when you make these decisions that are correct for yourself? Are you experiencing the true self themes of that? And that's it. That's the practice of human design. It's really simple. It's very basic. It's a decision making that we make every single day. And so
Not even every single day, every moment of every day.
every moment. Yeah.
And so, and in the ever present now.
Exactly.
And so in this book, it says, if the form principle is operating correctly in this life, slowly but surely, everything else will operate correctly.
Yeah.
This is important. I want you to remember this because we're going to reference it again later on as we really deepen into the secret to manifestation. Because what it's saying here is that when your body is operating correctly, when you're honoring decision making that is correct for you, then everything else in your life will operate correctly too.
Everything.
Your variable will operate correctly through you. A lot of people ask about what is my purpose, and they look at what is the incarnation cross. How do I discover my purpose? It will operate correctly through you when you are honoring your correct path of making decisions.
This is a massive, massive insight. If you get this one thing, you'll understand why human design is so impactful, and you get a level of clarity around human design that is just absolutely just like it's
above and beyond maybe like 98% of people
you'll be in the
with
top 5%, top 1% of
1%,
people who are living the human design experiment. And that's because you understand what this is really about
and how to embody this knowledge,
how to actually do the practice of human design, because that it's just decision making, and through the correct decision making, everything else will operate correctly. You don't have to do your design. You don't have to really
think it, force it, plan it, organize it,
or even know every aspect of it. If you simply make correct decisions everything else will operate correctly. You don't have to worry about anything else, right? Now, when it comes to the specific part about variable, what does it actually mean? What does that bottom right arrow stand for, right? And what is it actually telling you? Well, for that, we can look at what page is it? Page 11, right? In this
comes
PDF.
from Jovian Archive.
Yeah.
And
IHDS.
IHDS. It's basically a transcript of the recording that Ra shared of this class.
Yeah.
Now, variable really maps to the 4 transformation keys is what it says here. Your digestion. So this has to do with your diet, how to eat correctly.
So these are the arrows that you'll see in your chart, right? Just to flip back to this chart here briefly so you can see it. These arrows here all have a different meaning, and this diagram that we're showing you from this PDF shows what each of these arrows actually means and what it maps to, right? So that first arrow on the top left represents your digestion.
Yes. This has to do with your diet in human design. Now, in human design, we're not going to go too deep into diet here. In human design, there isn't something that says, oh, well, you're paleo, or you must be a vegan, or anything like that. What diet really speaks to in human design is how your body is designed to digest the food that you take in. And so this is so important because diet is one of the greatest conditioning forces on our material plane. If you don't eat correctly, then you can't fuel your body, right? If it all comes down to your body operating correctly, and that changes everything, everything else will operate correctly, then you've got to fuel your body correctly. And so what human design can tell you with your upper left arrow is, how do I eat so that I ensure and I guarantee that the way that my body is able to process the fuel that I give it through nutrition, that it can properly digest that food and receive the nutrients from it to properly fuel my body. The bottom left arrow talks about your environment. Now, your environment is also one of the biggest conditioning forces on the material plane, because if you're not in the correct environment, you think about plants and you put a plant in the wrong environment, and when you give it the wrong
away from sunlight
nutrition, it's not going to grow. It's going to stunt its growth, no matter how much it wants to grow.
In toxic water,
it's not going to grow. It's not going to live. It's not going to thrive or survive.
Yep.
And so it determines your environment. Where are the spaces and the places that really support you in being able to be your true self? The bottom right arrow, which is the one that a lot of people speak to about specific and non-specific, this is where they're getting this idea from, speaks to your perspective. Now, how do you view what goes on in your environment?
Perspective is defined as how we see. And you can see it here in this paragraph where it says, just as there are 6 different dietary regimens and 6 different environments, there are 6 different views. The way we're designed to see, that each and every one of us has a unique gift, a unique perceptive quality. Our perceptive quality is what this arrow is defining, or is pointing to, if you will. This perspective is how we view, how we see, our unique perceptive quality, not how we manifest, not how it has
nothing to do with manifestation.
Nothing to do with manifestation at all.
And you can see that because it has nothing to do with the throat center as well.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with the throat specifically connected to a motor. So it has absolutely nothing to do with manifestation.
Right.
And then the upper right hand variable.
One note here, though, is that I will add that perhaps, the interpretation of, why it's like manifestation should be done specifically or non-specifically for people who are of a certain perspective could be because of the themes of this perspective arrow, right? So basically, if you are right, that perspective quality is actually shown in this other diagram here. Let me scroll up for you guys so you can see it. Okay. So on the bottom right arrow, you can see, oh man, it's just so small. Okay, I'll just tell you, these arrows at the bottom right, when it's left, it means it's focused, and when it's right, it means it's peripheral. So when it's focused, you can imagine that the view, the unique perceptive quality of somebody who is focused might be the kind of person who is able to, line out the details of their manifestation, versus somebody who is not focused, right? Who is more peripheral, would not even be able to do this, right? They're not designed to focus on details like that. And so if you're the kind of person who has a right arrow, right, in your design in the bottom right, then you might find it more difficult to do those manifestation exercises that require a lot of focus and specificity. So if someone tells you, well, actually that's not your manifestation style, then that could make sense to you, right? Because you say, oh no, let me try it by being more peripheral or just more zoomed out, and that might work better for you, right?
Yeah, but that's not correct at all.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is that if the exercise requires you to have something in your body which you do not have, in this case, focus, if you're peripheral, right, then you'll find that exercise difficult. And so that might be the root of this loose interpretation of where the people who are right in their perspective might find it difficult to do those specific manifestation exercises, and therefore say, oh, that is an experience that I have, therefore maybe I am non-specific manifestor. Now I hope by this point debunked that that's not at all related to manifestation, but it is related to your view, and your vehicle, your body might reject those exercises, and that this explanation might have a sense of landing with you, might resonate with you because of that explanation of saying, hey, these specific exercises are not going to work for you because of this arrow, when really it's just like your view just doesn't align with that. And even if the exercise did align with your view, it still is not the process of manifestation at all. So it doesn't really matter if what you're trying to do is manifest. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm going to heretic all over that. I would say it doesn't even warrant to talk about that, because even to use peripheral in that sense is a misunderstanding of what that variable actually really even means, and what it means to have perspective in your perceptive quality. And to say that you don't resonate with it because you have a peripheral perspective, I mean, is that why you don't resonate? It's hard to say what the real reason is. And we can get to it when we talk more deeply about how you actually manifest, but it's simply that it's incorrect. And whether that incorrectness arrives from the fact that it has nothing to do with manifestation, or whether it comes from it being not correct for you based upon your type, or whether it comes from any other number of things why it's not correct for you, it is impossible to say, really. You can't say that with any clarity or any certainty, rather than to say that it's not correct for you. And if you've been finding that you have a challenge with manifestation, then of course you look for a reason for why that's the case. The not-self mind is always going to look for something to blame, or something outside of itself to say, oh, that's why that didn't work. But it's not to say that it has anything to do with that variable.
Okay.
Yeah. And the final variable in the upper right-hand center is about awareness. And so this is really about how your mind takes in information. So yeah, this is really speaking to, okay, this idea of specific or non-specific and all of that, and how it has no relevance to manifestation or to how you actually manifest. And so then the question is, great, that stuff isn't correct, this information isn't actually accurate, so then how do you manifest? How does manifestation actually happen? I understand the mechanics of it, that it's a throat center connected to a motor, but then how do you manifest based upon your human design? How is manifestation even really possible?
Yeah. Oh, you're asking me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, one of the things I think could be cool is to talk about our own experience with manifestation, and how it felt to go through all of this information and to come across all of this, and then to realize, what does this mean?
Yeah. Well,
especially in diving into different manifestation processes and having experiences that seemed in total alignment with what the theory and the premise of what manifestation promotes, especially the mainstream explanation and definition of what it is to manifest, right? That's what we're speaking to here. Yeah. And then hearing this and learning human design and thinking, wait, so then what does that mean? Is manifestation real? How actually do we manifest?
Yeah. Well, manifestation is definitely real, right? Because in my experience, in my life, I've had times where, I did put something on a vision board and it came real. So I think, hey, manifestation clearly works. I don't know exactly what it is that I did that made it work, but here's everything I did. And if I pass on that information to someone else and they did everything that I did, then they have a chance of it actually working for them too, right? Like that's the logic of the kind of the manifestation movement, the manifestation industry. And I think there's sound logic to that, right? Obviously, if someone's out there doing something and then all of a sudden we make fire, right? We make something out of nothing, then we're going to want to reproduce that.
Reverse engineer it in some way.
For me, like, one of my most proudest manifestations is you, the love of my life, right? My soulmate. And this was the thing that actually got me to my first awakening was reading about finding love, right? The guys are passing around the book, The Game by Neil Strauss, and how to talk to girls. And at the time I was in college and I had kind of failed at that. I failed. I wasn't very good at it. And so I devoured the book and I got really interested in it. And then I decided to like really try to manifest this, like get these girls, right? For the guys, it wasn't like manifest the woman of your dreams at the time. For me, it was just like, get a girl, find a date, like manifest a cool hot babe to hang out with. Like that was like cool, hot babe. Yeah, that's what I wanted at the time. I was a bro, I'd work out at the gym. Yeah, I was a nerd and worked at NASA and all that stuff, but I was also very into bro culture, bodybuilding at the gym and whatnot. So I got really focused on this and I wanted this, and I wanted to find women to connect with, talk to that cool hot babe, right? And so what I did was I read these books and I tried to like understand the process of how to talk to women and all that, and I learned a lot, and I ended up practicing in my mind, like scientists. I was like, I need volume, I need repetition, I need to practice. And so I went, at the time I was living in near DC at the Greenbelt, Maryland, near the NASA Goddard, which is in Greenbelt, Maryland. And I would go to the metro in DC and I would just go underground and I would literally wait for people to come out of their metros, and I would just approach random women and try to like start a conversation, get their phone number. And I was doing it there because I thought, well, if I failed miserably, they would get on the next train and leave. Like there would be no awkwardness of having to hang out in the space or like leave awkwardly. Like everybody was in motion. I had a minute or 2 minutes at most, and it was some of the most miserable times of my life doing that, because I'm a projector. I am designed to be recognized and invited, and boy, was I violating every single one of those tenets in my human design, and I was paying the price.
Especially given that a projector must be invited to 3 key things in their life, which is the work they do, where they live, and their relationships.
Exactly. And
so I love this example too, because I think this is such a beautiful reflection or example of what happens when you follow this. I always use the word homogenize, but it's like a one-size-fits-all group think perspective about what it means to manifest a woman, right? What it means to find love or to game and to get a girl.
Yeah.
And you follow this process that says, hey, there's this technique called sarging, and you got to go after these women, and you got to go up to them, and you got to wear certain things and show up a certain way. And you were doing your best to follow that process, but you were just never going to get success with that system because it was totally wrong for you.
It was brutal. I was getting rejected left and right. I was hurt. I felt like such a just like a creep. I mean, I was being a creep. It was terrible. It was so bad. And there came a moment where I just had enough, like one too many rejections. I just had enough, and I thought, okay, I'm done with this. Like, I'm done trying so hard to find women and like get dates and all this stuff. And I'm just, I'm just gonna like live my life and start my business and focus on my goals. And it was in doing that I moved to Austin, that I started going to meetups and events, and I actually met Idia at an entrepreneurship event. that's how I met the love of my life, who then gave me her phone number. And I was just like, wait a minute, I wasn't out here trying to meet anyone. And I met someone who gave me her number and invited me to call her. And that's the beginning of our love story, right? That was a manifestation that came of just me living my life instead of focusing on trying to get that thing to happen, that thing to work, you know? And that was really, really huge and a big manifestation in my life. And also pretty much every single one of my businesses that have worked have been from an invitation from a partner or a client that they want to work with me. My first business partner invited me to work with him, invited me to do business with him. You invited me to start a marketing business with you. You invited me to start a coaching business with you. You invited me to coach you.
I invited you to human design.
You invited me to human design. And it wasn't me like focusing specifically on all these things that I wanted and engaging in the manifestation practices as much as, you know, maybe some others might have. I did make a vision board on our business with you, but I never really engaged in much of those manifestation practices. I simply lived my life, and the manifestations have come from me living my life.
Yeah, and this is my experience with manifestation has been a bit different. As a manifesting generator, I can talk about my experience with manifesting love. One of the things I do want to speak about first is, you know, the ebb and flow that I've had with this manifestation process, where I would feel like, yeah, I'm manifesting all these things, and I'm creating these vision boards, I'm creating vision movies, and I'm listening to songs, and I'm scripting, and I'm like meditating on it, and doing sex magic and whatever else. And then I'd go to Vipassana, and they'd say, craving and aversion is not why you're here. It's all about equanimity. And I think, wait a minute, what does that mean? Does it mean that I can't manifest? But I've experienced these things in my life that have felt like such potent manifestations. What does this mean? Or then I come across human design, and then it has a totally different interpretation of what it means to be a manifestor, when our whole life says go out and make it happen, and you got to write it down, and if you want to have that special car, then you got to smell the leather, and what kind of leather is it, and what kind of color is the car, and write down the exact date and the exact time when it's going to come.
What some might call specific manifestation.
Yeah, exactly. Or non-specific, where they say just get into the feeling. This is what people might call non-specific. It's feeling is the key, and if you can just tune into the frequency and want it but don't want it, have it, but like release it. Do it, but have a certain level of detachment around it. And you're like, okay, what's the frequency? It's like, well, that's what you got to figure out, because you don't know it and you've never experienced it before. But the only way that you're going to get it is by being an energetic match to it. So how do you become an energetic match to it? These were all the questions that would come up for me. So we'll talk about that in a minute, and we'll tell you the 2 secrets to this. But in my experience, when I was like deep into manifestation and creating vision movies, especially around love, that was a big one that I felt really proud of. Something that I really manifested into my life was finding you.
Yeah.
And I created vision movies, and I had Pinterest boards, and I would play songs, and I would feel into the emotion, the feeling of being in love, and I would call you in, and I wrote a letter to myself in the future, writing all the things I desired in a partner, and I shipped it off. There was an email thing called Dreamminder at the time, and it was going to send it to me a year later, and all of the manifestations and the things that I wrote would come true. And I got really clear on what I wanted and what I didn't want, and did all different kinds of things. And this was even before I was deep into the manifestation world, or even before manifestation was as widespread as it is now, because that was about 10 years ago at this point, if not a bit more. And I remember people saying too, well, you know, manifestation without action, law of attraction without action means nothing. It's like, if you can't, you're never going to meet someone by being in your house. You've got to go out, and it's a numbers game, and you got to date all these people. And my friends kept saying, get on these apps, get on these dating apps. And that was before dating apps were widely accepted. And I got on these dating apps, even though I felt like, I don't really want to get on here. I don't believe I'm going to find my person on here, but okay, fine. I would go on these dates with these people who were not it. And I was like, yeah, but I just got to be open and I just got to, try it all out. And it was like the cringiest, most awkward, weird, creepy guys. But I was like, oh yeah, it's just one dinner. You just never know. Even though my body knew. And it wasn't until I said to myself, I am not doing this anymore. I deleted all the dating apps. I said, I'm done dating. I'm just going to focus on my business and building that. And when I do that, then I'm going to find a person who's correct for me. And literally, once I did that, that's how something showed back up at my door. And I thought, this is a test. This is a test. I just said that I was done with this. I'm not falling for this. And it turns out, like everyone said, once you stop looking for love, that's how it'll find you. And I thought that was such BS and it was such garbage. And I hated hearing that. Not self-management who's like, no, I got to make it happen. I got to control it. And in so many ways, that was right. And when I was talking to you, Santos, about this not too long ago, maybe sometime last month, about, doing all these things and having the music and being in the energy of it and visualizing you and seeing that and having the Pinterest boards and doing all of these manifestation practices, and then you showed up in my life, you said something that was so beautiful and so profound where you said, was it the fact that I did all of these things that called you into my life? Or was it the fact that you were already coming to me? And because of that, you came into my life.
Yeah. And because of that, you could see me, and therefore you could create the vision movies and the Pinterest boards and listen to the songs, because it was already an experience your body was starting to feel and see coming in. Yeah. So you could feel it more and more. Like maybe you were looking outside of the window and you could see it. You could see me approaching, you could see me coming closer.
Do you want to talk about passenger consciousness? Because I feel like
do I want to talk about passenger consciousness?
Right now, well, you're talking about being in the window. And this is the beauty of where they talk about.
It's one of those mega unravelings for me in human design. And I mean, maybe
well, this idea that imagination is a preview of life's coming attractions, and that when you see something or you visualize something, if it's correct for you, then it's like sitting in a car and enjoying the ride. Yeah. And as you're looking out the window, you see things that maybe feel exciting, feel wonderful, feel beautiful. You're enjoying the view. You've got music playing. It's really amazing. It's really awesome. And you simply enjoy the ride, knowing that you're getting to your destination, whether that destination is love, whether that destination is a successful business that brings you freedom and tremendous impact. No matter what it is, it's by trusting that it's already coming to you. What's correct for you will always find you. As long as you're living your design, that is really part of the key to manifesting.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about the 2 secrets to manifestation, the first secret is, if you're ready, if you haven't guessed it yet, Sons, do you want to reveal the first secret?
It starts with the letter S.
Ends with the letter Y.
Yes.
It's your strategy. It's your strategy. Because remember, the form principle, when the form operates correctly, human design is all about decision making. When you make decisions correctly as yourself, then naturally everything else falls into place. And so when you think about what it is and how you're designed to manifest, it really is determined by your type. If you're a manifestor, the simplest, fastest, easiest way for you to be able to manifest is to wait to inform and initiate based upon what your authority has told you, where it's guiding you to. When you think about it as a manifesting generator or a pure generator, when you wait to respond, when you live in response, that is how you manifest. That's how you ensure and you guarantee that the manifestations that are correct for you are going to come to you. And I always thought this saying when it comes to manifestation about this or something even better. Because your mind can never conceive what's correct for you. When you think about the way that we have been so deeply conditioned to have this homogenized group thought about what it means to manifest something, what it means to be successful. I mean, I see this all the time where, hey, someone gets a golden retriever and they get a G-Wagon and they get this and they have a white picket fence. And did you really want that corporate job and that golden retriever and that size diamond engagement ring? Or was it because someone put that idea in your head? is it because someone conditioned you to believe that that's what it means to be successful, and your undefined heart center and its desire to prove itself says, oh, all of these material things is what success means? Is what it means to have an impact really about having 10 million followers, or having the biggest following on YouTube, or being an industry leader and however that's defined outside of you? Or is it something else? Your mind doesn't know. And so what becomes your protection and what really supports you is trusting in your strategy, because your strategy will always, 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 always guide you to the manifestations that are correct for you. And from that place, abundance naturally flows, love naturally flows, impact naturally flows, because you're in alignment. As a projector, strategy really comes from waiting for the invitation, an invitation that is rooted and steeped in recognition about the uniqueness of who you are and the value that only you can bring.
Example of meeting Edie, I was invited to that event by a friend.
Yeah, there you go.
And when I went to the event, she gave me her number, inviting me to call her. Mm-hmm. I waited for the invitation and recognition. And that is what made our connection actually possible to the level that it has been today, you know, where we've been together for 9, almost 10 years now.
Yeah. And a beautiful, loving, amazing, incredible, deeply intimate, phenomenal relationship.
Similar thing with the businesses that I've started. I have been interested in something. I've been curious in something. I've studied it. I've learned about it. And then bam, an invitation from someone, from a partner or a client saying, hey, let's do something together because I see you learning about that, because I see you, recognition and invitation. And it had it had nothing to do with any specific thing that I had to manifest for myself, because, and I want to really speak to this, because I have a defined throat, but I do not have a motor connected to my throat. So you might be wondering, if you're looking at your chart and you're like, wait a minute, I don't have a defined throat, or I don't have a defined motor, or both. I don't have a defined motor or a throat. Okay, does that mean I can't manifest? No. It just means that your manifestations will come about either through a transit like we have today, where we do have the throat and a motor defined, or it will come through being in contact with other people who might define your throat and might define a motor. Right? And it isn't something that you actually have to go out and seek out or track the transit so that you can, speak out your manifestation during that transit or anything. It'll naturally happen when you are taking correct action, making those correct decisions based on you trusting those 2 keys of your strategy and your authority. And so the manifestation, the study of the manifestation.
We haven't gone to reflectors.
What?
Reflectors. How do reflectors manifest?
Same thing. If they don't have the definition in the throat,
reflectors are wide open.
Right.
So they manifest through their strategy of waiting a lunar cycle. Mm-hmm. I just like to cycle through all the different types.
Okay.
So they can be clear, so that everyone is able to understand and benefit from.
Well, this process of manifestation is kind of irrelevant to type, right? It's just those 2 centers that we're looking at. If one of those isn't defined, which is reflectors, some projectors, actually all projectors, right? Because for projectors, you'll either have one center defined or no centers defined.
Yeah, what makes you projector is the fact that you do not have a motor to the throat.
Exactly.
And you have an undefined sacral.
So all projectors will be missing one or both.
Yeah.
Right? And who else? I mean, generators will have a motor,
generator,
but possibly no throat.
No, they could have a throat defined, but it won't be connected to a motor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they might even have both defined but no connection.
Yeah, only manifestors and manifestors.
If you do not have the motor to the throat connected, can you not manifest? How are you to manifest, right? And the answer is yes, you can manifest. And you do so through a transit or by meeting other people.
And I would say, honestly, even beyond that, It's through living your strategy and authority. If the first key is strategy, the second one is authority.
Well, I'm speaking to the process of how manifestation will happen, right? Because the process requires that definition in those two centers exist and there be a connection between those two centers. How you get to that definition isn't something that you need to like manipulate or figure out or like wait for a transit or go meet someone that has those centers defined. It's by living your strategy and authority, therefore being in the right environment, being with the right people, connecting with the right people, and being in the true self-orientation when that transit hits, so it comes in like a superpower and you're able to manifest just naturally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Mm-hmm. The mechanics of how manifestation works.
Yeah.
Continue.
What do you mean? That was it?
Oh, I thought you were saying something else about manifestation. Yeah, so at the end of the day, all manifestation comes down to trusting and following your strategy and authority. Because ultimately, when you do that, it guarantees that what's correct for you will always come to you in perfect divine timing. Now, does that mean that you never create a vision board, or you never do a vision movie, or you never again do sex magic, or participate in some ritual, or do any kind of process or script things? No. If your strategy and authority is calling you to do those things, and it brings you satisfaction, you feel satisfied doing that as a pure generator or a manifesting generator. You feel successful and recognized doing that as a projector. You feel peace as a manifester. It delights you and fills you with so much surprise as a reflector. Then by all means, do those things. But what it does not mean is that it's not that you did that thing, that it was this special sauce that's what led to the manifestation being able to take place and appearing in your life. Rather, what it means is that because you were in a true self state, and because you were living your signature, and because you were living your design, and showing up in alignment correctly as you, and it happened to happen through those activities or those things that you did or did not do, because of that, the manifestation was able to be present in your life, and it will always be correct for you.
Yeah, if you really look at the practices of manifestation, one of the key focuses of the kind of New Age manifestation process, the focus of the process, is that you get into the vibration, right, of the version of yourself that already has the manifestation that you're trying to manifest. Yes? Mm-hmm. So how do you get into that vibration? And a lot of the practices in manifestation, like kind of New Age manifestation, are all about how you get into that emotion, how you get into that vibration, how you get into that frequency alignment with that future reality.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you already have the business of your dreams, that you already have the abundance, the millions and millions of dollars, so you can buy anything you want, travel whenever you want.
The car, the house, the clients, the audience, the followers.
Yeah, like so that you have the ability to really like have everything that
have it all now.
Yeah, you can have it all now. Like, how does it feel to have it all now? And a lot of the practices in the kind of the New Age manifestation movement are all about how you get into that vibration, right? And what we're saying here is that it is ultimately about that vibration, and it has nothing to do with any specific practice around vision boarding or scripting or affirmations or anything like that, and everything to do with you experiencing that true self frequency of satisfaction or success or peace for the manifestors, right? And if you can just be in that feeling of feeling satisfied, of being your true self, then that is the vibration that is in highest alignment, that allows you to manifest pretty much everything that you've been really feeling, that really is correct for you.
Yeah, so when they talk about being an energetic match, that's what it means to be an energetic match. That when you live correctly as yourself, your energy is naturally a magnet for all that's correct for you. When you're in a not self state, you're never going to manifest what's correct for you. When you do it from a place of exhaustion and grind and frustration, and this is what happens. And people say, well, you care too much about it. You've just got to let it go. It's less about letting go, and it's more about tuning into what actually does bring you peace. And see, this is the tricky thing. What actually does bring you satisfaction? What actually does bring you success and recognition? What actually does bring you surprise? This is the tricky thing about getting into the mind to try to manifest, because the mind likes to try to think that it knows what's correct for you and that it knows what you're here to manifest. And it wants this illusion of like, I can control all of it. I can control the outcome. I can control when it happens. I control exactly what it is and exactly what color and exactly what thing. And that doesn't mean that if you have a vision of something and it comes through for you that you're like, oh no, it's not real, I throw it to the side. No. Own it, honor it. Like we said, it's like being in the car, being in the vehicle. You've seen an attraction. You know you're moving towards a certain destination, and you turn on the music and you enjoy the drive. It's not that you then, if you know that, let's say, for example, you're manifesting a G-Wagon or you're manifesting a Ferrari, then you now are sitting in a different car and it's driving you to that dealership or driving you to that destination. You're like, okay, well, what do? I've got to change the tires. I've got to plan out the road, and I've got to, you know what? The roads here aren't smooth enough. I've got to dig up the asphalt, because that's what a lot of the not self wants to do, to try to control it and try to speed up traffic and try to get there faster. And it exerts all of the not self themes to try to make that happen. When instead, when you trust your strategy and authority and you surrender to your true self and your signature, you are naturally in the energy and the frequency with a certain detached attachment to the outcome, knowing that the whole way along the process, you're simply enjoying the ride. You're enjoying the process of realizing and receiving all that's correct for you and all that's coming to you. And instead of blocking that by trying to force some other outcome, instead of blocking that by doing things because your mind thinks that's what's going to create it for you, and so you're going outside of yourself to be in exhaustion and frustration and bitterness and disappointment and anger and trying to prove yourself and anxiety and pressure, and you're taking action from those places, feeling lost with no direction and reaching outside of yourself, searching outside of yourself for clarity and certainty and avoiding confronting the truth of your reality. Instead, your body relaxes, knowing that it's always this or something even better, and that it will bring to you all that's correct for you in perfect divine timing, as long as you follow your strategy and authority. And so that's the key. Those are the two secrets. It always comes back to strategy and authority. And it's never going to be about what your mind says. It's never going to be about some one-size-fits-all. And this is also, too, why there are like 1,000,001 ways to manifest. One person says, oh, you hop on one leg and then you spin around in a circle 10 times and you light this candle and then you blow it out and you script all these things and then naturally you'll manifest. It does work for someone, not because that is the one secret path to manifestation, but because in that process of doing those things, that person was a manifestor whose spleen told them to do that, and it worked. That in the process of creating the vision movie and watching those things, the reason that that process worked for me when it did was because it felt satisfying for me to be in that creative process and pick all these pictures. And my not self mind had all kinds of chatter about it not being useful or worthwhile, but my body just felt so satisfied listening to music and watching a vision and feeling satisfied and being in the energy of that each morning, each day. It was the practice of tuning into satisfaction as a manifesting generator or as a pure generator that brought that reality and outcome that was even more satisfying than I could have ever even imagined or fathomed. It was Santos being in a state of feeling successful and recognized, that in calling in love, he called someone who recognized him and who invited him to a relationship that is wildly and beautifully successful. And so this is really the key. This is the secret. And this is how you show up for manifestation and alignment with your human design.
Yeah. I think there's one core point that I'd like to highlight here is that we're speaking to the energetics behind the practices of manifestation that you might engage in. Mm-hmm. You can continue doing any of the manifestation practices that you currently engage in
1,000%.
as long as you're feeling that true self signature. Mm-hmm. You're feeling peace as a manifestor, success as a projector, satisfaction as a generator, or surprise as a reflector. And if you're not feeling those things in the process itself,
not that I'm going to do this process so then I can feel.
No, in the process itself, if you are not feeling those things in the process itself, then do not continue in that process, because it does not help. It will not actually create any manifestations for you, because the way to truly manifest is going to come from being true self by trusting your strategy and authority. And then spontaneously, you will find that there is some energy to the throat at some point, whether it's in your design or it's a transit or you met someone. You'll notice that any manifestation, if you've manifested anything before, ask yourself, did I speak out loud about this? Because I tell you, everything that I've ever manifested in my life, I've talked about loud about it to myself, to others, to people, things that I wanted.
Well, you're self-projected, so when you talk out loud,
the process of manifestation is through the throat, not just because I'm self-projected. Did I speak out loud about it?
Yeah. Well, more so that if you're speaking out loud about what's correct for you as a self-projected projector, and that puts you in the rooms and it puts you around the people as an opportunist who are actually correct for you, then through that very process and that nature, you would be in a position where you would be able to draw in all that's correct for you. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like what you said too about stop doing that if it's not tuning into your signature.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's an element of what is communicated as let it go, release it. You've already done enough of the work, so let it go. And it's less about like write the thing and then let it go, or create the movie and then never watch it again, or do the thing and then release it. And it's more so about what you're saying about honor your signature, trust your strategy and authority.
Yeah.
And in that, if the scales start to tip where it's no longer bringing you satisfaction, to be in the process of it.
Yeah.
If it's no longer bringing you peace, to be in the creation of it and the visualization of it and the scripting of it and the writing of it and the calling in of it. If it's not bringing you success and recognition, if it's not bringing you surprise, then
even if it's contrary to what the process is supposedly what's required by the process of whoever's teaching it.
Yeah.
So for example, the consistency of reviewing your vision board is a very common one, that if you have an undefined heart, you're missing the gate of rhythm.
Gate 5,
it might be very challenging to maintain a daily practice. It already is very challenging. Human design shows us a reason, very likely why so many people have undefined hearts. So many people don't have the gate of rhythm, and therefore it is way more challenging. Even if you
have the gate of rhythm, if you're a generator and in the now your gut tells you to do something else, then that changes for you. If you're an emotional authority and your feelings tell you you don't feel like honoring that rhythm today, it doesn't feel correct for you.
Yeah.
So it's these very, very fringe cases to be able to honor that and to show up for that in such a consistent way. And to look at that, the only thing that you're here to really be consistent in and to strive for consistency, if at all, is around following your strategy and authority.
So even if the process says you must do this every day for it to work, but your authority says not today, this doesn't feel aligned today, that's an opportunity for a decision, right? You make a decision. You say either, you know what, I'm going to do it anyways, because that's what the process says, external authority, someone else says this is the way to do it, and you do it anyways. You review your vision board, but you comb through it real quick and you're not really feeling it. You just rush through it.
And you think maybe you're not enough.
Just to check it off the list.
You gotta do more because otherwise the manifestation isn't coming fast enough. And someone else put it in your head, and so now you feel pressure and anxiety about when it's gonna come, and then you hold on to it longer than it actually serves you. And you think, if I just look at it a little bit more, if I just script a little bit more, if I just pin a few more pages, if I just get a little more clear,
it'll
if
happen
I just
faster.
Release it.
And what happens faster? Frustration, anger, bitterness,
unworthiness,
right? You end up out
anxiety,
of the frequency, out of alignment of the feeling of actually already having it done. You see, it's not all about the manifestation process that is being taught or that you're trying to follow, and everything to do with the energetics, the alignment, and that without that, nothing else works, right? And the way to really align is going to be through your strategy and authority. Maybe that day, it's not going to be reviewing your vision board. Maybe it's going on a walk and living your vision board that day.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's actually doing something totally different that isn't the quote unquote manifestation practice, but is you living your design.
Or maybe, because I've seen this as well too, where it's as much as it's become a trend and a fad to create the vision board or create the vision movie or script the thing or write the goals down. There's also this like anti-movement that's cropped up too, where it's like vision boards don't work. And they just say categorically that the law of attraction is garbage. It's a scam. It's not true, because it really comes down to what is true for you. Yeah. What is in highest alignment and truth for you. And as long as you honor that, you will always arrive at what's correct for you.
Yeah.
It will always work for you. And that's the beauty of this process, because again, remember, human design is not about trusting an authority outside of yourself. It's not about following someone else's process or what someone else says will bring you success or satisfaction or clients or money or peace or surprise or worthiness or joy or success or any of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Even in our own business by design curriculum, you know, some of our clients who might be listening to this right now, you know, you'll come to me saying like, man, I feel like I'm not moving along the process, or I'm not going fast enough, or I'm not, you know, making as much progress as I want to in this process. And yet I you know, we track the stress levels of our clients and we see stress levels going down. We see people, you know,
real progress, real success.
We'll see the markers of like, okay, your stress is lower. You have had more opportunities. You're feeling more satisfied. You have
more money coming to you. You have clients coming to you. You have better projects coming to you.
what's the problem with not quote unquote making progress through the process? You are living the process, because the process is to live your design. Not to actually go through any other
module or step by step.
It's not about the modules, or it's not about the courses. It's not about the external process. It's all about your internal process of living your design, and whatever it takes, whatever information it takes, whatever exercises it takes, whatever steps it takes, right?
Practices, rituals
is what's really going to, you know, if it's going to help you live your design, then that's what matters. Because when you're living your design, you'll be vibrating at the energetic match of your manifestations, of everything that you've been trying to manifest that's really correct for you will simply come to be. The manifestation process will simply come online when it's correct for you, by you focusing on living your design and trusting your strategy and authority.
And I would argue it's already even there. It's already correct. Like what's correct for you is already it's that idea of what you are seeking is seeking you. It's already trying to come to you. And it's simply that when you trust your strategy and authority, no matter what it's telling you to do, no matter how crazy it might seem, hop on this plane, go to this place, spend time in this hotel, be in this vibration, talk to this person, hit up this phone, go on a walk, clean your bathroom, clear out your closet, clean your car, whatever it is. Your strategy and authority is guiding you to what's correct for you.
Yeah.
And the more time you spend in that, and the more time you spend in your signature, then all of your manifestations come to you in real time, because you've removed the resistance and the friction to receiving all that's correct for you. And you make yourself an easy, open conduit for love, for money, for clients, for success, for freedom, for all the things that you've been calling in.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that I want to add to this as well, because while we talk about living your strategy and authority and living your design and being in a true self state, this does not mean that if you have a not self moment or a not self experience, then, oh no, well, that's it. Then the manifestation is never going to come, and you messed it up and you effed it up, and there's like, too bad, so sad. It's going to delay it by another year or by another 5 years or whatever the case may be. No, it's that perfection isn't required here. That if you could have made a different choice in that moment, if you could have made a true self choice in that moment, you would have. And that all of the not self moments that you go through, remember, the undefined centers, the undefined channels, the places where you have no definition in your design, are the places where you're open to the greatest amount of wisdom and experience and learning in this lifetime. And so when you can recognize that even in the not self moments, those two are supporting you in your manifestation. They don't actually detract from it, but they're actually fuel and fodder that's preparing you to be able to better receive in real time all that is correct for you. I mean, for so long I felt disempowered by this idea of like, is it really just about strategy and authority? Is it really about that with manifestation? So you mean I can't just create a vision board and make it come faster? I can't just like have a self-stroking practice or go on walks or listen to some music or write down every single negative thought or belief that I've ever had and try to excavate it from my mind and my lineage and NLP my way through it, and then it can happen for me tomorrow.
Is this self-stroking practice like orgasmic manifestation?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or you can do it with partners, sex magic stuff.
Right. Cool.
And the truth is that in reality, it's so much simpler than that. That you don't have to worry about having it all perfect and having it all figured out and keeping your mind online and juggling every single thing and making sure that you had the exact perfect color of what the leather was going to be and the special car that you wanted and the color of the car and the model and the make and the exact date and time that you were going to pick up the car. You instead only have to focus on two things. Did I honor my strategy? Did I follow my authority? Do I feel my true self signature? At the end of a moment, at the end of the day, how successful do I feel as a projector? How satisfied do I feel as a pure generator, a manifesting generator? How at peace do I feel as a manifester? How surprised do I feel as a reflector? And knowing that creates so much spaciousness and so much ease, because you don't have to do it all. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to be someone different. You don't have to be more, have more, do more. You simply recognize that you are enough. You always have been. And it's been all the other stuff that you're not self-mind, that you've been deeply, deeply, deeply conditioned to believe through not self-conditioning, that you have to do and have to have, and how you have to change and what you have to heal and what you have to fix in order to receive that just you get to let go of.
And if it feels in alignment for you to engage in the manifestation practice, like vision boarding or scripting or affirmations or anything else like that, then amazing, right? But it might just be living your life.
Yeah.
It might just be letting all of that go and leaning into what has been calling you, what has been that thing that you've been wanting to really do, whether it's being creative or making something or doing something that might not even seem,
or even resting. That if you've been wanting to rest, like this seems like such a mind trip. It seems so illogical based upon what the not self-conditioning tells you about what's required in order to succeed or to call in love or to call in money or to call in success or to call in health, that, wait a minute, can I really sleeping? It's like Santos has been doing yin yoga and he lost all of this weight. It's like, how do you lose weight by doing yin yoga, where it seems like by doing quote unquote nothing?
I set a goal to lose about 20 pounds like 2 years ago. And I did all sorts of things like, do cardio and go to the gym and
circuit training
and I used to bodybuild in college, so I had this entire routine,
weightlifting protocol,
and plan, and I just, every time I did my plan, I ended up gaining some weight and feeling more stressed, and it just wasn't working for me until one day I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to drop to the floor and do some yin, and I'm just stressed out. And after about 4 to 6 months of doing that, I lost 25 pounds almost. I am literally 5 pounds heavier than I was in high school. And it all came from no cardio, no major changes in.
He didn't do HIIT workouts. He didn't join some random gym.
All I did was eat according to my diet. I'm eating, hot and wet foods. That's my human design diet, that my digestion, and yin yoga, right? And then that goal that I had already forgotten that I'd set, my app notified, my skill notified me like, hey, you've met your goal. And I thought, wait, what? How? I haven't been doing any cardio. This makes no sense. It just happened. It manifested from me living my strategy and authority and just letting go all the extra stuff that I thought I had to do to actually, lose the weight or actually manifest what I wanted.
And really letting go of all the mental conditioning too, because as a former bodybuilder and like what it means to be a man and what it means to train and to surrender to that and to release all of that not self chatter. And I love that you did this practice of yin and that you continue to do it, because it really is a beautiful example of how it happens in the body. That in being in your body and by honoring what your strategy and authority was telling you to do, and then in being in this practice of holding something for extended amount of time and increasing your flexibility in a space of surrender is what allowed it to all come to you.
Same thing with our coaching business. When I started learning about my design, it's like, hey, you're a projector. You're not really here to do service like that, like work like that. And I'm like, wait, what does that mean? I mean, everything we did in our marketing agency days, I mean, I was building out stuff, building out systems for clients, building out websites, or even building some ads or managing the ads or building reporting tools, and just like all this doing that I did not feel recognize myself, did not feel successful doing any of that stuff. And when I started,
it was so funny because when we had the ads business where they'd be like, ex-NASA scientist, you're
really
an ad
good at
genius.
math. Terrible.
It's like his undefined ajna.
So bad at arithmetic.
I was the one
math.
coming up with all the logic.
I was a physicist,
and
not
I felt
a mathematician.
so offended because it was so sexist for them to think that it was you coming up with that.
I'm not that good at math at all, really. I mean, I was a physicist, not a mathematician. But anyways, like this process of letting go of all of these services, offerings, things that I was offering to clients.
Man, that doesn't even take into account the times where you would physically drive out for clients or fly out for places.
Drive out, I would
doing
fly
sales
out,
calls
I'd
and
do
doing
physical
stuff in person.
I've even done physical labor for clients. It's insane.
What the not self does to
I was
life.
taking on business work, things that just were not for me, and in letting all that go, I was like, I have nothing left. He invites me to this human design class thing, and I start learning about my design, and before you know it, I end up just being able to do this work because I created the space. I let go of all the stuff that just wasn't for me, and it created the space to receive the things that are for me, that I was born for, that I am born for. And that feels so much better. It's like, absolutely. I still have to blink twice, pinch myself and say is this real? Because how could I be doing work that I love? How could I really have clients that I absolutely adore and weigh myself in the mornings and actually feel like I'm in my body and I fit in my clothes? Like it shouldn't work this well, right? I haven't even been doing anything. And that's kind of the point. Human design is a yin technology. Surrender to the truth of who you are, and in letting go of this entire need to control the outcome of our manifestations, and focusing on really the one thing we can control, which is the decision making. Are we making correct decisions? And just discerning, am I in a not self state? Am I in a true self state? Am I making correct true self decisions? Am I making not self decisions? Am I getting true self results? Am I living my signature? Do I really feel satisfaction, peace, success, surprise? Do I really feel that? Or am I feeling vulnerabilities? Not self themes. Oh, dang it, not self themes. Okay, correction, update, try again, decondition. And the manifestations just come like that.
Yeah. So that's the key. This is the real secret to manifestation by design. And now we wanted a really deep dive on this. And I hope that it illuminates for you the truth about what you see out there. And again, this is part of why you can't believe everything that you see, read, or hear about human design, especially the more popular that this becomes. I say it again and again and again, that to know human design or to have taken a course that someone created who learned it from someone who learned it from someone who learned it from someone doesn't necessarily mean that you are living your design. And the easiest way for you to know is, do you feel more successful in your life as a projector? Do you have more satisfaction in your life as a pure generator or as a manifesting generator? Do you feel more peace in your life as a manifester? Do you experience more surprise in your life as a reflector? And are you following your strategy and authority? That key will always guide you. That's the real signature. And you can tell it when you meet someone. You can feel it in your body. You can hear it in the stories that people say. The amount of people who, because I've been doing this human design work for a while, someone will come up to me invariably at times when I go to a gathering or I leave the house and they're like, oh, this person's into human design too. And me as a doubter with defined head centers, a heretic, a skeptic, I'm always like, maybe. And I hear them say something that is basically like, tell me you don't know human design without telling me you don't know human design. And to live your design is something totally different. And you can see it and you can feel it and you can hear it in the frequency of the language and the embodiment of the channel and the individual who shares that work. You can see the results in the life at real time. And the best part is you don't have to pay attention to whoever is telling you this information, even Santos and I. Now we've given you all this information about manifestation by design. Great. Go live your own experiment. See how that works for you. Trust your strategy and authority. And like he was saying too, if there are certain traditional or new age practices around manifestation that your strategy and authority tells you to do, instead of judging that, instead of attacking that, instead of diminishing that, give yourself permission to indulge in that, to feel good anyway. Knowing that the version of you who's most successful as a projector probably does rest more, right? The version of you who has more impact and income as a generator, a manifesting generator, does feel more satisfaction, right? The version of you as a manifester who's having the greatest profound impact that you're here to have on this planet probably feels really, really peaceful about that, yes? The expression of you, the vision of you as a reflector who's in the center of a tribe who really recognizes you for all of your wisdom, probably waits a lunar cycle and feels so much surprise. And when you own that and when you accept that, it is a yin technology, like Santos said. This is not about the yang push and strive and control and do it, but it's about really allowing it to come to you moment to moment to moment to moment to moment in the now. And following your strategy and authority, knowing that it will guide you to what is always correct for you. Whether that's to sleep, whether that's to do nothing, whether that's to create a vision board, whether that's to create a vision movie, whether that's to fly out, whether that's to join a program, whether that's to do whatever it is that's correct for you. And that will always lead you to the manifestation that's correct for you. And it is through your own experimentation with this that you get to realize the truth and the wisdom of what is actually correct for you. You get to play with it and come back to us and tell us about your results. Tell us about your experience. Tell us about what happens in your life. And that becomes greater proof and evidence of the body of this work and how it really works and transforms people's lives. And is always, always, always bringing you what's correct for you. So that's what it means to manifest based upon your human design. May this serve you. May this support you. May this guide you in taking your power back and knowing that you can trust yourself. Trust yourself. Because your body knows the way. It always has and it always will. And what's correct for you is always coming to you in perfect divine timing. And your opportunity then is to simply release all the blocks, all the ways in which you've been conditioned to put up barriers to allowing yourself to receiving it. It's to surrender and release and let go of all the ways that you've been conditioned to believe that it's got to be hard, and it's got to be complicated, and you've got to fix yourself, and you've got to heal, and you've got to change, and you've got to be something different or more than you are. or have something more or do something more. And recognizing that you are already that which you wish to be. It is simply the not-self's mind failure to recognize that keeps you from recognizing and realizing that that is so. You are already that which you wish to be, and you were born with everything you need. It's in you. It is you. This is the way.
Amen. This concludes our heresy for today.
Until next time.